Welcome back to another lesson from Reese Teaches Programming, where, as promised in the last lesson video for our DevOps series, I am providing you with a second demo on how to do this. The last demo on how to set up our GitHub repo and our project and get connected to GitHub Actions was in .NET. This one is going to be in Python, and I'm going to switch out to VS Code so you can get kind of two different ways to do this, as well as getting familiar with some of the command line ways to do this outside of like a GUI. I know I'm on a Windows computer, a lot of you may be on a Mac, so kind of just getting some exposure to a different way of working your project. So you can see I'm in VS Code. I'm going to start by setting up my Python project, creating a folder, getting my environment ready, and adding my first Python file. So let's walk through those steps. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is set up a new folder. I'm going to call this Python Github Actions Demo. So I've got that set up, and then I need to get into CD over to that so that I'm now in the folder I want my project to reside in. And then I'm going to set up my virtual environment. So once I have this environment set up, I can then go ahead and activate it. I honestly don't do this on Windows very often. Okay. Learning experiences for all of us. Okay, now we're going to add a Python file. And if I just go open the folder that I've created here, let's go ahead and select. Yep, I should have a main.py file already in here. Now, if it didn't create one for you, for whatever reason, you can just create a new file and name it main.py. So let's just put some code in here. Let's say add like X and Y, and return X plus Y, right? Easy enough. Nope, I forgot the colon. Thank you. All right, so let's save that. And then let's also create a test file. So I'm going to name this test main.py. And then I need, let's see, nope, don't ask Copilot anything. I'm not one of those people that's really gotten on board. I have it on, but sometimes it's really just to show people how it doesn't work right. So let's assert that add 2 and 3 should give us 5. Blessed. We hope so. All right. So we need to install PyTest, and we need to create our requirements document. The requirements document ensures that GitHub Actions knows what packages to install. All right, so I'm going to pip install PyTest, give that a second, and then using the pip freeze our requirements text file. Next, we're going to initialize Git and push to GitHub. Now, in this example, I wanted to show you the difference between, like in the .NET example, we went to GitHub, we created the repo, and then we just connected to it in Visual Studio. In this case, I want to show you how to just like create it through VS Code in the command line. So we're going to git init, and that sets us up an empty repository. We can add, and if you add dot, it's gonna dump everything in there. And then when that is finished, we can git commit m initial Python project. Now this works because I have my GitHub account signed into through the account section of VS Code. So that is a prerequisite to these commands working correctly is one, you have Git installed and like you've got these packages installed, and you are signed into your GitHub account through VS Code. So if you're kind of stumbling right now and you can't figure out why things don't work, back up for a second. Make sure you have packages like Git and pip and those kinds of things installed. You have Python installed. I guess I maybe should have asked before we started. And that you have gone into the account section of VS Code and you have connected to GitHub. So you might have to back up for a second and make sure all of that is working correctly. Okay, so our next step is to set up the GitHub repo that we'll be using for this project. So just like we did in the .NET example, come over to your GitHub page, create a new repository. I named mine Python Github Actions Demo. And under the quick setup, grab this Git link. So just copy that and come back over to your VS Code window. So what we need to do is connect the local repository that we just created to our GitHub repo that we just created so that they see each other and are now connected. So git remote add origin and paste your link in there. You can always use git remote v if you want to double check, and then you can make sure that those are set. So then we need to get on the branch. So git branch and then -m main. And if you get lost, you can always just say git branch and it'll tell you what branch you're on. And then if we want to push, git push u origin. Man, I'm bad at misspelling origin. I'll tell you what. Main. And then that should push our repo up and our branch is set. And if we come over to our GitHub site and refresh, we should now see our Python project has been committed. So next we're going to add our GitHub Actions workflow. So inside of our project structure, we are going to create a new folder named .github. And inside of that .github folder, we're going to create another folder named workflows. If you like to do this on the command line better, you're more than welcome to. But inside of workflows, we need a file named python-ci.yml. This is the file name used. I'm going to go ahead and hide the terminal. This is the file name that GitHub Actions will look for that contains our YAML, the YAML code, that outlines all of the steps. So we're going to start with a name property. This is what will show up in our Actions tab of GitHub. Python CI, give it a name. And then we give it an on directive. Now the on directive, does it hate tabs? I think it does hate tabs. The YAML is very picky. We want to identify the triggers essentially. So we want to say on push for the branches main. And that's, we double checked, that's what we named our branch, right? It was main, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, we can always go back to either our terminal to see and check our branch, or we can look at GitHub and see, okay, branch is named main. And then we also want on pull request for branches main. So those are our triggers, and you can set up different triggers, different YAML files that trigger and run different steps based on different actions. Like if you wanted a different one for pull requests versus a different one for pushes, or different ones for different branches, you can definitely set all of this up and have different YAML files for your different actions and different triggers. So once you have your triggers, your on section set up, we have jobs. So jobs outlines all the things that we want to do when we run. Now I'm going to paste this in because it's a lot of typing. So we want to say on build we're going to run on Ubuntu latest. So you pick a runtime environment. And then what steps do we want to go through? We want to check the code out. We want to set up Python with a specific version. We want to install dependencies. We want to do our pip. It looks at that requirements text file, and we want to run our tests. So we want to run PyTest. And so once you've got all that in there, make sure you save. Now, the reason I was kind of obsessing over like the tabs and the spaces is that YAML is very like space sensitive, and you have to be very careful with like your tabs and your spaces, or yeah, you'll get like linter warnings like this if there's a problem. Or sometimes it looks like this. If your code is like, if your YAML is not like color coding correctly, then there's something off in your spaces. And you have to like tab around to try to fix it and then get it to line up correct. If we are feeling good about it, let's come over to the terminal. Now, there is a built-in extension for VS Code and a couple other IDEs, depending on what you're doing, for GitHub Actions. In fact, I didn't have mine installed on this version of code, so it's prompting me to install it. That will help you with like some syntax and you know, just like almost like IntelliSense support for writing out your YAML file. So I want to git add the GitHub or .github workflows Python dash CIYML file, and then I want to git commit add GitHub Actions workflow, and then I want to git push. And so that will go ahead and get all that moved up to GitHub, where we can refresh and see that folder is now here. If I come over to the Actions tab, I can see my file. I can see that I have an error, and I was worried about that when I saw that linter error. All right, so I went back through and just double checked spacing. It said line 10. It looked like there was just like a weird space in here. I'm still getting this linter error here, but I went ahead and checked this change in. YAML is very picky, and running your YAML through a linter or something is highly recommended, because you will end up with these problems where you check it in and it tells you there's a problem. But now I can see the name is updating correctly in Actions. My update YAML build check-in here actually went okay. And so now we can test this the same way that we've seen, where you make a change and you check it in, and this runs every time. And so really that's it. So every time we push code or open a pull request on this branch, GitHub Actions will automatically set up Python, install our dependencies, and run our test suite with PyTest. And so if we wanted to go further, which we will in future videos, you have a good basis to start from. So I hope you have learned a ton here. You can see me kind of fumbling around because honestly, this is not my environment of choice. But I wanted to make sure that you had an example of kind of two different ways to do this in two different environments and languages. So hopefully you are going to stick it out with me and continue to learn about our pipelines and set up a little more sophisticated of a pipeline, as we will be doing in the future. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much.